Hello, everybody. Welcome. I am super excited to bring to you today Dawn Vason. Dawn is an entrepreneur and yogi, and she runs a business called Holistically Whole. And I'll let her explain a little more detail about what that is. But she is providing transformational life coaching, and she is also a yoga teacher instructor and a yoga instructor herself. So welcome, Dawn. I'm super excited to have you here because we're going to talk about some really cool things today. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Christine. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. So Dawn and I met when I was in yoga teacher training, and we've both moved on to exciting entrepreneurial adventures, and she'll share a little bit about that with you in just a minute. But Dawn and I both have a passion for making yoga, but also the wellness industry, wellness topics, a little more accessible and a little more inclusive to a wider audience. It's been dominated in a way that hasn't always felt inclusive to people that might feel a little bit different from the common person you think about when you think of who goes to yoga class. So we're going to talk a little bit about inclusivity, and I would love for Dawn to share her own private journey. You know, what got you interested in yoga and the wellness industry, and what was that journey like for you? Did you hit any roadblocks, and how did you overcome them? How do you navigate that today?
Thank you for the introduction, Christine. Yes, I am Dawn Vason. I have been teaching yoga for the past, oh my gosh, it's been about 6 years now. As Christine was saying, we met with Happy Jack Yoga, which was where I started my yoga teacher training, a wonderful school. And I segued into supporting with facilitating the 200 hour. But yeah, I found yoga about 7 years ago. I had my spouse had just had a brain aneurysm, and I had just been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. So I was really looking for something that would make me feel better, right? And I was looking for something that would help me physically, emotionally, mentally, like wrapping my head around this new life that I had and just trying to find a way to cope. And I think like most people, you know, we come and find yoga in that time where we're suffering and we're looking for some relief. And so, yeah, I was led to yoga. And when I first tried to do yoga, I went to YouTube to kind of search videos, and I quickly realized that I didn't see yogis that look like me. I was I'm short, so I'm only like 5'2.5", 5'3", if I want to fudge it a little bit. And, I was about 215 pounds. So I had a bigger body, and I got really discouraged by what I was finding on YouTube. I noticed that it was a lot of able-bodied, thin, really skinny, flexible white women. And I was like, this just doesn't look like it's for me. And I kind of just closed it out and walked away for a while. And I had like this tugging in my spirit that's like, I think yoga's for you. And they say if you're a yoga teacher that like you taught yoga in a previous life. And I totally agree with that, because I kind of had this tugging on my heart to just go back and continue to try it. And so I went on YouTube again, and I was watching this video one day, and you know how the ads come up and they ask you if you want to try out different things. And there was like this educational course on yoga. It was like a yoga certification, but not really a yoga training. And I got really curious. I'm one of those geeks that likes to sign up for courses and learn new things. So I got really excited, and I ended up purchasing the course. I think it was like $15, $20. And I realized at that point, that was when everything opened up for me, because I began to learn that yoga was more than asana. And I think for me, I initially, like most people, when you hear yoga, you think thin, flexible, able bodies that could do like headstands or handstands, bend over backwards. And I was like, yeah, I can't do any of that stuff. So maybe it's not for me. And when I started to learn about the 8 limbs and all of the different ways that we could practice yoga, I got really excited because I was like, something in here's got to be for me. So I kind of did a U-turn and came back and with that knowledge, I started to look for classes that kind of aligned with what I felt authentic for me. And then I fell in love with asana practice. Like I found a yin class and it was so scrumptious and I fell in love, right?
Just in case any of our listeners aren't familiar with what the word asana means, what do you mean by asana?
So asana is the physical practice of yoga, right? The physical postures, the poses that we often see. Like if we were to Google yoga, right, we're going to see these physical poses of people maybe doing like crow pose or tree pose or any of these physical postures. And that was honestly what I thought all of yoga was. I just figured it's just the poses, right? It's like stretching, right? You look cool, you wear like leggings and you do a downward dog. And I think like most people, that was the view that I had of yoga. And so when I opened the door to deepen my practice and learn a lot more, I was like, oh, this is like one piece of the pie. And there's so many other things that we can do. So I think that that was like the first aha moment that I had with yoga, where I was like, oh my gosh, not only can I make my practice accessible for myself, we can make this practice accessible for so many people. And that was a pivotal moment for me. So I think the biggest roadblock that I hit with starting my practice was not seeing anyone that looked like me. And I think that, of course, at that time, there were, Black instructors, there were bigger body instructors, but I just wasn't finding them. And so immediately I saw that there was a need for more representation. So I think simultaneously, when I started to learn about the 8 limbs, I kind of made a decision in my mind, like, I have to teach. I have to teach. I've got to be one of those people that get up there and share the yoga with the people so that they know it's accessible and they can create their own practice. So yeah, that's what changed it for me.
Yeah, and I love the concept accessible across so many different parameters. We talked about body ability. I mean, even if you can't move your body, you can practice yoga in the mind through pranayama, the breath work, through meditation, through studying the 8 limbs and the philosophies. But when we don't see somebody that looks like us, and whether that's visible or invisible, there are, I like to cater my practice to people who are neurodivergent. So that might not be something that's visible, but it's something that I want, because I know how healthy meditation and yoga asana are for people who may have ADD or be on the autism spectrum. I want my practice to feel inclusive to people who might struggle with some muscle tone issues, or might struggle with touch, or might struggle with lighting or sound or communication. Like a cat is joining me. We want our health and wellness to be accessible across the board. And then each person has their own life experience and skills that we can then share those gifts with people.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I think, and I love that you mentioned neurodiversity, because I think that the way that I begin to approach teaching was coming from a standpoint of being the representative for those marginalized communities, right? And when we talk about marginalized communities, we talk about those who are in able bodies, those who are in disabled bodies, and we're all kind of temporarily abled anyway, right? I could bust my knee next week and end up in crutches or maybe in a wheelchair and have to adjust my practice for that. So I think that it's very important for us in the wellness industry to make these practices and these spaces very inclusive, because we all deserve wellness, right? And that is a holistic wellness. So, we're talking about of the mind and the body and the soul and our emotions and all of these things. And I think that when we have that in mind as we show up as wellness providers, that we're able to do it from a space where it doesn't make anyone feel like, oh, I don't belong here. And, oh, this may not be for me. Like, no, it's okay. You're my people. This is for you. And we can craft these practices for neurodivergency or for able bodies or bigger bodies or smaller bodies, and making these adjustments, I think, is pivotal in the wellness industry as a whole, because now more people are coming to the table, right? And I think that COVID kind of gave us that, oh my gosh, this flashing red light of, oh, wait, I think I may be neurodivergent. I think I may have some mental health issues. I think I may be dealing with depression and anxiety. And because all of this is coming to the surface, now we have an excess of people who are looking for support and resources. And when we have that in mind, we can give them good resources that they can cater to their own practice. So I love that.
And isn't it great that there are so many areas, there are so many resources? You know, you can go into a traditional yoga studio, but you can also do it from the privacy of your own home. You can have it be a group endeavor. You can do it individually. There's just so many options. There are free options all the way up through very expensive options. So we really are living in an amazing time where this is becoming more and more accessible. One thing that I've always admired about you, Dawn, is your ability to treat health and wellness like this is an automatic part of my life. I have to make room for it. Dawn is an entrepreneur, a content creator, a mother to 4 children, and some of them are still quite young. And until recently, you were homeschooling many of them. So, like, how do you fit it in? How do you make room for it in your life?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny that you say that. Like I actually was homeschooling for 10 years and just stopped homeschooling last week. So it's like fresh that I'm not homeschooling anymore. Right. And I'm still going through this, oh my gosh, my kids aren't here anymore. But yeah, I think that I was living in a space where I didn't realize that I needed the wellness as much. And bringing awareness to what I need for myself, for my physical body, for my emotional wealth and wellness, and for my mental health and wellness is just this idea of knowing. And I think it's giving myself the permission to say, no, you can make time for this, you know, realizing that the times where I say I don't have time or the times I need it the most, and kind of just working that in. And I'm really big on time blocking. So I am a time blocker. I have been time blocking for years. And the system that I kind of use is I make myself a 6 list. So I make myself a list of 6 things that I'd like to do each day. And if I can, you know, run through that list of 6 things, that's absolutely awesome. If I can't, you know, I can't. But I try to limit it to 6 things. And it usually works out to about 3 things that are for my business or school or things like that. And then there's 3 things that I do like for my home and my family, and just kind of minimizing this idea of always having to do. And I think that that's something in our society where we always feel like we have to do. And I say all the time, like I used to be addicted to hustle culture. Like I've got to always be working, and I have to make sure that I check these things off and do X, Y, Z. And even this week, I had an issue with my other MacBook where I couldn't see my screen, and the attachment to my other monitor, like it had a short in it. So for 2 days, I was forced to rest, and it was super uncomfortable, right? I was like, I've got things I got to do. I got a to-do list, and Monday and Tuesdays are my days that I do my content creation. So it was very uncomfortable for me to sit still, especially with starting a new month, right? We know how content creation is. You want to get ahead of the curve. So noticing and kind of reframing the way that I look at these things that happen, right? We always will have unexpected things that happen. Whether that is, you know, maybe we out of nowhere lose a job, or out of nowhere have a living situation that changes, or have these adjustments in life. And I think that leaning into my practice is the anchor in my storm. It's the anchor in my storm in my business. It's the anchor in my storm in my family. If I'm like having an emotional day and I just want to cry, like I'm clinging to my practice at this time. And I think that a beautiful thing about being in the wellness industry as a entrepreneur is that we have these magical tools as a practitioner that we can pull from, and that can sustain us when the times get hard. So I would say, like, yeah, my practice and my time blocking are the 2 things that keep me sane. They keep me organized, and also still give me enough grace and space that I can like relax and not feel like I have to do so much, and strategically say, you know, it's okay. I'll have the time to do it. Things will work out. Well, you know, one of my mantras, I say this all the time. I have time for the things and people that I want to have time for. And I think that mantra has sustained me for years, because there are times where if I don't have the time for it, I just feel that that's just the way that it was supposed to be. I wasn't supposed to have time for it. And living life like that, I think, gives us a space to just kind of breathe, right? It's just, I don't have to stress. I don't have to worry about all of that. So yeah, time blocking and my practice. Those are the ways that I keep all of it together, I guess.
That you do it all. You know, it's so common to hear myself, and I think a lot of people do it, be saying, you know, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. And then what are we attracting into our life? The situation of not having enough time. And I had a brilliant coach say to me once to flip it over. I have so much time and so little to do. I have so much time and so little to do. And as ridiculous as it sounded, I still use that today. And it magically dissolves that tension, that feeling of, I don't have enough time to do everything I need to do. You said something that the very first time I ever heard you say it stuck in my mind, and I use it myself frequently: grace and space. And when I hear those words, I just immediately feel a release of tension. You know, my shoulders lower down. It's very soothing. What does that mean to you when you say
Oh my gosh. So grace and space has kind of become my tagline. Like I say it all the time. My students know it. It's like a hashtag for my trainings. They're like, grace and space. And I think that grace and space came from initially from a place of guilt, right? Of course, you said I'm a mom. I have 4 kids. I have my spouse. I have other partners because I'm polyamorous. So I'm like, there's so much going on in my life. And I would get to a point where I would really feel guilty about time that I wasn't spending with my family, or even time that I wasn't spending with myself on the mat, or not getting to my journaling, or not getting to the tasks that were on my list. And I would meet myself with so much guilt, like, oh, you should do better. You should get these things done. And I started to just get to a point where I would take this deep inhale and just grace and space, because the grace is that I'm giving myself grace on being human. Like, I am a human. I'm a divine being having a human experience. And sometimes this human experience might be kicking my own, you know? And I think that when we have those moments, if we can meet ourselves with compassion, that's the brink of when healing begins.
Absolutely.
And healing must take place because we get so caught up in this hustle culture, and we have to do, and we have to show up for others. We have to work our jobs, and we have to, you know, if we're entrepreneurs, we have to be there for our customers, our clients, our students. And there's so much that we have to do, that when we give ourselves that grace, it's like, it's okay. It's okay. And the minute we give ourselves the grace, we open up space, right? There's a moment where we can take that deep breath, and now we've got more space to process what's going on. Okay, it's okay that I didn't finish that load of laundry. It's okay that now I've got to wash it a 3rd time because I forgot it again. Or it's okay that I didn't make it to the mat today. Or it's okay that I didn't eat all of the nutritious foods that I thought I was going to eat today.
Right.
And when we meet ourselves with that compassion, there's a sense of relief that comes with that. There's a sense of lightness, of releasing that heaviness that's just keeping us to a place where we just can't move. Yeah. And we need that space. So the grace and the space kind of have to coexist, because we allow ourselves compassion to be human, to have the experience, and then create the space where we can breathe and not be so upset with ourselves, and then realize, oh, it's not that bad. It's not the end of the world, because it's not the end of the world. Even though the bad things happen, we've navigated through those bad things before. So we know that we can navigate again. But in that moment, it doesn't click, right? It doesn't come in that moment. So grace and space is like my gentle reminder of, it's okay. It's okay. And the minute I tell myself it's okay, it's like, I can breathe lighter, right? It's just,
absolutely.
It just opens up. I don't feel like I'm so worried. I can bring a smile to my face and give off some love to myself. And when I give the love to myself, then it's a mirror, and I can give that love to everyone else. And I think that when we navigate the world with that mindset of giving ourselves that grace and space, we feel better. And when we feel better, we give off a better energy, we give off a better light, and it attracts others. And I think that that's, of course, that true sense of yoga, that sense of union, and that's how we do it. So grace and space is the words that I live by, and I remind myself all the time.
I mean, that message is spreading all around the world. I learned it from you. I share it with others. Uh, we could have a whole segment just talking about compassion and how compassion really leads to healing in our minds, in our emotions, and even in our physical bodies. I am certain of it. And then as we have self-compassion, doesn't that also allow you to open up and have compassion for others? Like, we're all in the same human condition. We're all living in this crazy, again, spiritual beings. What are we doing in these physical bodies, in this physical world, navigating the best we can? And when we can have self-compassion, we can also open a window to have compassion for others. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I always remind myself, I say this saying all the time, that people do the best they can with the resources that they have. And
Absolutely.
so we, as wellness providers, as educators, what we do is we offer our students, our clients, those we meet, these options and these resources. And we're like, hey, just take this. Maybe you'll use it one day. Maybe it doesn't resonate for you.
Mm-hmm.
But when we have the resources, then we can make better decisions, and we can show up for ourselves better and love ourselves better. And like you said, in turn, when we love ourselves better and we have that compassion and that grace and space for ourselves, then we can have that love and compassion and grace and space for others. So
absolutely.
It's a ripple effect.
You got it. Speaking of resources, do you want to share a bit about what you do? What are you sharing with the world right now? What are you creating?
Yes. So as Christine said, I am a 500-hour certified yoga teacher and a transformational life coach. And what I am doing right now is I actually just opened Holistically Whole Yoga School. So we have some courses for teachers and coaches and therapists and those that are in the wellness industry working with clients, right? On how we can show up better for our clients and our customers and our students, and equity versus equality, and how important that is. And also, I'm doing, courses, workshops, teaching yoga, leading all of the things. I still offer one-on-one sessions. So yeah, a little bit of everything, but it's all coming together. And I am very passionate about holistic healing. And when I say holistic healing, of course, Christine, I mean of our mind and our cognitive behaviors, our emotions, and not so much hiding from them and shoving them under the rug, but learning how to meet them and accept them, and accept and love on the parts of ourselves that are not the ones that we always pour to the front, right? Sure. And then our physical body, and in incorporating all of that with movement and energy, and how we can show up better for ourselves so that we can show up better for others. Like, that's my overall message with Holistically Whole.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to share all of your contact info, Dawn, in the comment section at the top of the comments, as well as in the description of the video. So you'll know where to find Dawn if you'd like to learn more about her or take one of her programs. I know that, we'll share all the links, your YouTube, your TikTok, your yoga school, your website. We'll share it all. Oh, this has been so refreshing. I haven't seen Dawn in a few months since we used to be in the same yoga school together, but we've both moved on to create new things. But it really has been delightful to catch up and to learn more. And we barely touched the surface on things. Maybe we can have another conversation in the future and dive a little deeper.
I would love that. It's always good to connect with you, Christine. I think that this is the beautiful thing about when we show up authentically, right? We were able to attract the people that resonate with our story. And, you and I are in that same boat of spreading this message and making sure that all of the people that are in our orbit have the right resources that they need. So I would absolutely love to come and hang out with you again.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right, Dawn, thank you so much. People, before you go, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so that you'll get notifications, so you'll know when I go live or when a new video drops. I've got new videos coming out every week. Some are yoga, some are mindset. I've got great interviews like this. And again, like Dawn said, our passion is in just sharing the wealth, sharing the information so that you can live an epic life and be healthy in mind and body. All right. Namaste, my friend. It was great to see you, Dawn. Thank you for being here.
Anytime. Yes, and it's funny because you run so often from your authentic self when the world is like waiting for you to be your authentic self. So
Yeah.